Seth Bogner, how are you today?
I'm great, Chris. How you doing?
I am doing great, and we're very excited to talk to you again. We've had a we had a wonderful conversation last time, and we've also featured some articles by you and honored you again this year, and it's all well deserved because you are an amazing person, and your company is an amazing company with such incredible goals that are both noble and profitable. So you are the chairman and CEO of HeartPoint Global, and I will not even try to describe what you do because I know I will I will completely mess it up because it's so extraordinary what you are doing. But why don't you tell our viewers what it is that your company is about and what it's doing?
Sure. First of all, Chris, thanks for having me on again. I really, really appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure to speak to you, who, I think are really making huge waves in the social capital space. And what we do is is social capital, but it's also, serious business. But we have a method to um, adjust flow and pressure in the pulmonary artery and other any blood carrying vessel in the body that could treat a whole range of indications. Right. First, we're starting with congenital heart disease because that, especially for kids, which is a huge market not only in America but all over the world, and it's something that's undetected in a lot of places, including in America, where we have this multi-tiered healthcare system that even I was talking with one of our docs who works at UCSF, and she's telling me about a kid who had an undiagnosed congenital heart issue in, who was from Marin County, and from a very upwardly mobile family. And so it's not just about poor kids, it's not just about underprivileged kids, it's not about the 90% of the kids or people in the world that don't have access to cardiac care, which is a ridiculous number if you think about the technology we have available to us. So we have a simple, inexpensive way to treat a whole bunch of indications. But as I said, we're focusing on kids in the United States with congenital heart disease. And there's several categories, but it's really amazing what we could do. We've taken old science and put new technology around it, and have a solution for thousands, if not millions.
So where did this idea come from with you? You have a very interesting story for how you got into this and how you wound up doing this.
Yeah, I have friends in Switzerland who were in the cardiac space, and somebody who's a partner of mine who said I had to go take a look at what they were doing. So they showed me this very messy surgical procedure that took blue kids and allowed them to get better. When there's a disease called Eisenmenger's disease where the kids literally turn blue. And so I went with them on missions all over the world, and we started treating kids what we could do. Then I met another scientist who also happened to be from Switzerland, who was working with our docs on a solution for an old surgical procedure called pulmonary artery banding, which is a 70-year-old surgical procedure with a very, very high mortality rate. And we were able to, with the help of our money and their ingenuity, put together something that replaced that surgery in a minimally invasive way, taking away a lot of the risk, doing it without the heavy, full anesthesia, and very, very quickly be able to, do a procedure in 20 minutes versus 6 hours, and,
Wow.
and just having I can't even begin to tell you how getting rid of that huge mortality risk. And you're talking about sick people, and especially us, because we're focused on pediatrics. So you're talking about sick kids. And
Yeah.
there's nothing sadder than seeing sick kids. And by the way, I have found people all over the United States who tell me stories. There's a person in Chicago told me that they had Dr. DeBakey, who was the first guy ever to do a heart transplant, working on her sister. And they kept her sister alive for a number of years. And if we had this solution in place, she wouldn't have been, she could have gone on and had a normal life. And wow. There's a whole range of diseases and indications that we can treat. And some places in the world, we might even become a destination, because one of the things we can focus on is left heart issues, and solutions for this in the United States and Europe are very, very well known. Artificial hearts, heart transplants, that just doesn't happen. As I said before, 90% of the people in the world don't have adequate access to cardiac care. It's a crazy number. We have all this money, people spending millions of dollars on nonsense, and I'm not talking about low-income countries. I'm talking about middle-income countries as well. I'm talking about countries that you go on, we all go on vacation to. The kid gets sick, you wait 6 months for an appointment at a cardiologist, and then they get sent home.
Wow.
It's heartbreaking. And I've heard these stories from cardiologists all over the world. But we decided to bring our focus to America, because everything happens through America. You don't find people talking about the issues you're talking about, Chris, in other places in the world as much as in America. So we have to, take the, not only the fiscal imperative, but the moral imperative, and just sort of move that forward. Move closer to, move the chains down the field, as we would say in America.
So you were, clearly moved by this, moved by the need, moved by the condition of these kids. And you can hear it in your voice. How did you go from there to, first of all, creating a business model that would work, but getting investors and people on board relatively quickly to say, let's invest in this, let's make this happen?
Well, it's easy when the first investor is yourself, and that's where it was. It was my fund who was the first investor, and these people this technology we invested in, they put together a management team that worked for a few years and didn't get very far. And I felt this was so important. I basically changed my whole life. I went from being an investment manager to running, a medical device startup, and then dealing with all the issues that were, everybody in the world was dealing with, like COVID, supply chain shortages, but it didn't stop us. It just, made us more determined to do what we did. And then, I moving back to the United States. We've been spending the last year getting other people besides you to recognize the great work we're doing. We won a whole bunch of awards, and for our technology and for our system. And now we're preparing to submit to the FDA our breakthrough documentation and move forward with our clinical trials. So it's been a very active year for us, very successful year for us. But I think it was important to get buy-in from the cardiovascular community, especially the interventional cardiovascular community. And we did by winning the Cardiovascular Research Foundation's TCT Shark Tank Award. We won cardiovascular CRT. We were named one of the top 3 innovations in cardiology. We won, it was a European award, Horizon EIC Accelerator Seal of Excellence a couple of months ago. And recently, just last month, we won the UCSF Stanford Pediatric Device Consortium accelerator pitch competition. We've got the silver award there. So we wanted to get the thought leaders in America engaged in what we were doing. And just like you get excited when you connect with us because you have followed us, to a certain extent over the last couple of years. We're trying to get other people, and it's worked. We've had so many hospitals and noted interventional cardiologists work with us, and we're building with more thought leadership in the United States because everything comes from here at the end of the day. Europe is great, but it's just not America.
You mentioned the clinical trials, and the last time we talked, you were a little bit further off on that. Where are you guys on? How close are you to those?
Really close. It depends. We have two different paths. One's an American path where we would get a compassionate use exemption to do an intervention. The other one is European, and it's a little more formal. We've just started seeing some of the first patient files from that. So it's imminent in the next few months. There's still a bunch of kinks we have to work out. Remember, we're working on kids, so we're extra careful.
Right. Sure.
And we have two teams, one here and one there, who are working on this. And I'm very, very fortunate because we're working with a great international CRO who has been super supportive, but has the infrastructure around the world to assist us. So there was also a question of timing, whether it was better to go for, where we stood in the FDA process versus, the valuation process, because needless to say, when we go ahead and we do first in human and first in human isn't one patient, it's a series of patients. It brings tremendous value to the company. That fits my outlook, where you can have a successful investment and at the same time do something that's important socially. So I don't think, I think, as you said, the two things are not mutually exclusive, they work together. And we also have had great, interaction with some of the funds that are social responsible funds, or focused on kids and things like that. But up to now, we've been very, very much focused. We've been funded by me, my friends, my investors, and now we're just bringing in outside investors. So we didn't, we were going to go out when COVID started.
Yeah, sure.
and then the market got hammered, 2 years ago when Silicon Valley Bank failed.
Yeah, sure.
And now the market has picked back up. Where there was a very big acquisition. Johnson & Johnson bought something called Shockwave for many billions of dollars, and that has sort of picked up the whole market. And companies like us, where I always view things by how much capital has to be deployed in order to do things. There are very few companies like ours that have deployed the capital already, have proven concept already, have built the device and the system already, that really are sort of virgin to investment. So I think we're in a very, very good position in terms of bringing great returns to the people that come with us at this point. And I'm one of them. So the biggest one, I should say.
Yeah, and obviously your belief in this and committing your time and your money to this, is what got it to be in that place. And you're an incredibly astute investor, and that revelation that you kind of turned your life, committed your life to this, versus what you were doing before. is fascinating on a lot of levels. That personal commitment to this, I'm I'm sure people would love to hear, what beyond seeing these kids and clearly being moved by that, you know, what is there anything personally inside of you that made you want to do this and say, okay, I can make money in a lot of different ways, but I want to really make this one of those primary ways that I run my business and what my business is about.
Yeah, listen, I would consider myself a spiritual person, and I believe that the highest form of service that you could do is receive something and then give it back out. And and that type of service is something that I was asking for a long time in my personal practice. That and then this business showed up, and I got deeper and deeper into it, and I got more and more excited about what we were doing. And I was saying, wow, if we're only, sort of at our worst case, we could save so many people and make so much money. Why shouldn't I be doing something like this instead of just moving money around for people and, putting it from one stock to another stock or one company into another company, or helping them pay less taxes in a legal and proper way. These are all things that were not attractive to me. And I think everybody has a few careers inside them. I started off in the investment business, working in structured finance and creating vehicles that were replicated by, many, many, many people, and people made a lot of money on it. But I sort of got bored and started doing something else. And I think here, and I'm not saying just in this one business, because I do spend the vast majority of my time, this is my full-time job, but I do see the need for more people to do more things that are good for society. And I think if people just start thinking that way, well, let's see what we can do that helps the world, not just helps me. This is our purpose in life. It's not just to live for ourselves, but to live for everyone else, because I believe everything is sort of interconnected. And if we do good for others, it's the golden rule. Do unto others as others would do unto you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. These are the Judeo-Christian ethics that we were brought up with. And I think that if you go one layer below that, you find that there's so much you as an individual could do to help other people. People are in pain right now, whether it's economic pain, social pain, leftover pain from the pandemic. The world's changed, and I think people are living in anguish. A lot of people are in anguish, and we can help them by example, not just reaching out to them, and helping them, go to a better energy level. But there are these businesses out there that can help things. Now, I think I said this to you before, that it's not just businesses like mine, which are really, really going after really improving, and creating things to help people. But I said, Steve Jobs is a great example. He did stuff that improved the quality of life in the world. And he believed it like a religious zealot. And that's how he created this unbelievable company. I think a lot of other people in information technology have had other experiences that have improved things. And we look at what's happening with AI and stuff like that. It's really just fascinating. So you don't have to be looking at charitable things in order to be improving the world. You could have a regular job. You could be running an airline. You could be, there are other things you can do as a leader, as a thought leader, as a business leader that could improve people's lives. It could be as simple as just like, giving better maternity leave for for the people that work for you. This is important stuff.
Yeah.
Helping families, And we're very lucky here in America. I think that we're moving in a lot of ways in the right direction. I also think in a lot of ways the wrong direction. But I think there are a lot of people that really want to do good. I think that the political environment's sort of hasn't been fantastic because what most made us great as a country was this discourse, the civilized discourse we've had, debating things and get moving things to the better. And I think that if we continue to move things to the better, or we're talking to each other, we can move things. Things aren't so black and white. Not everything's good and bad. I like to say things are true and false, not good and bad. And I'm very optimistic about America versus the rest of the world now. I really think we're in a great position.
Well, I love how much you're promoting, the essential idea of what we do in the Center for Social Capital and, the Social Capital Insider. Every company has different ways of showing that commitment to social capital, commitment to improving lives in different ways. And it doesn't need to be a company that's, all about something that's explicitly improving life, but just improving life in the way they do business or the way they treat their people. But I also, love the idea of you saying it doesn't necessarily need to be a charitable thing, because, your company and some other companies that we honored recently, have specific missions that, maybe 50 years ago would have been reserved for a charity. And now they've come up with a business model in order to serve that need. And yours is a good example. I mean, there's lots of very noteworthy charities in the world that are trying to help people that don't have access to healthcare or don't have access to better medical attention, and they're important. Those nonprofits are important, but there is something amazing about the economic fuel that happens with a business. When not only the intention to make a difference with a grand and noble mission like yours is there, but the economic engine that comes, that's extraordinary, right? So, I think people would love to hear, what is your vision for the future of, you get the trials are done, everything goes swimmingly. What does your data show in the future that can happen because of this company, as far as lives changed and the numbers that you guys have researched? How many people are suffering out there that might not have to be suffering?
Listen, just with our initial indication, there are 1 million people in the world that we should be able to reach. Forgetting about how many people out there we should be able to reach. When you start talking about all the indications, when you use what we're doing now as a predicate for many other indications that we can service and have intellectual property rights to, the numbers just become, ridiculously large. Literally millions and millions of people that we can, help. But that's way in the future. Right now, we have to stay focused on what we're doing for kids with congenital heart disease. I always hate answering questions like that, even though I think that unless we stay focused on that first step and focus as business people and as scientists and as researchers with getting our first step done, we'll never do it. It'll be one of those great ideas that never happens. So I bring all the team's focus on the job at hand, which is to get FDA breakthrough and to get approval, which we think we could do very, very quickly in the next couple of years because it's a pediatric indication and because there's a huge unmet need. And we serve many unmet needs. And the more doctors I speak to, brilliant people here in the United States, that unmet need is something that's screaming. So I'm humbled that we do this work every day. I think it's an honor. I think we made a huge investment in it, and so far all the data that we've gotten back is good. But we are looking for partners. We do need partners. We can't do this alone. I always say great companies aren't solo acts; they're symphonies. And so we do need the right social impact investors, the right cardiac investors. We've been very, very fortunate that thought leaders have backed what we've done. And that's these awards I was telling you about before. Mm-hmm. These are all thought leaders in interventional cardiology that are saying, wow, this is a simple yet elegant solution that meets unmet needs. This is, pretty cool. So we've gotten, doctors from every major pediatric heart center. Well, I shouldn't say every, but a bunch of major pediatric. There's so many great places in America that are doing research. Sadly, not as many as you'd like to see for kids. Out of I saw this statistic. I'm probably not going to quote it perfectly, but over the last 20 years, for the few hundred things that have been approved with the FDA, less than 3% were for pediatrics.
Wow.
So it's so the FDA has been, much to their credit, very focused on bringing devices for kids, pushing them to the front of the line. And I think it's harder to do trials for peds, but you get smaller trial sizes from the FDA. The FDA is really making a huge effort now to make up for that inequality that was there in the past. So kudos to the FDA for what they're doing here.
Well, we're glad to hear that, and we're excited to hear that you guys are close. Obviously, we're gonna stay on top of everything that's going on with you, because we love what you're doing. We love the reasons you're doing it. We love your motivations, and you're kind of the poster child for social capital at its highest level. So we really thank you for what you're doing to make a difference in the world.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's always a pleasure spending time with you, and we love what you do. And we think that that's really great. People need to hear that other people are trying to do good things in the world the way it is right now. And I think that what you've done here is truly amazing as well.
Well, thank you so much. We could not do it without people like you to talk to and talk about. So right back at you. If people want to know more about your company, it's HeartPointGlobal.com, correct?
Correct.
And go there and check out everything that's going on and the latest advancements and the latest events that are happening. And if people do want to partner with you or in any way get associated or get on board,
sure. Just you could either contact me through LinkedIn or my email is sb@heartpointglobal.com, and I respond to everybody. So please feel free to write to me.
Well, that is awesome. I hope you get a lot of people reaching out because of us and just in general. So, Seth, thank you so much for taking the time to, talk about this complex subject and making it a little easier to understand, and also, letting people know that they can be excited about this and all the reasons why, and also really, really inspiring people to think this way. I really appreciate that. It's obvious that you feel this down deep, and thanks for sharing that with our viewers.
Okay, Chris, I'll speak to you soon. Thanks.
All right, take care.